yatzliach. Al kain lo yakum rishoyim b'mishpav chatayim b'adas tzadikim ki yedei Adonai derech tzadikim v'derech rishoyim toved.
We are here to pay our last respects to Benny Zigdon. Chatzkel's grandson says that there's a difference between a tzaddik that died before his time and a tzaddik that dies after his time. A tzaddik died after his time, he's mechaper on his generation. A tzaddik died before his time, he's mechaper on everybody. His generation, all the future generations. Matis Yos Solomon said a shmooze, which I don't understand exactly, but he said it, that's what he said. The people that have children that are not well, Down children, other types of children, it's a school for the parents. Everybody thinks they have a Down child, it's a tragedy. It's a school for the parents. I'm sure that everyone here knows that Benny was in a wheelchair. And it wasn't comfortable for him. No matter what wheelchair he was in, he was not comfortable. If you asked him whether he wanted to be 100% well, he would have said yes, no question. But he never complained about his matzav. I knew him for a long time, and he never complained about his matzav. You would think that a person that has to sit in the wheelchair, has everything done for him, would complain a little bit. He never complained. That was his lot, and he accepted it 100%. That's the pshat. A person that's zeichet to be nifter before Yom Kippur means tikkun olam. He suffered a lot the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Didn't have it easy. But he didn't complain once. Didn't complain once. Havai für uns alle gesagt, that we don't complain about the stupidest things we complain about. Something didn't go our way right away, we complain. We feel we have a right for God to give us what we want. That's not a right we have. Whatever God gives us, that's what we have to take. And for Zucher to do that, and we're at Zucher to be a tzaddik that's mechaper on his future generations also. The Nifter had 3 sons that were mamish, b'nei Torah mamish. The sons. That alone is a kapor for him. His wife doesn't need any kapors. she was mamish mishamish like a mamish a lot of Torah. The Yerushalmi says the Kohen Gadol, when he went home from doing the avodah, he had what he called it. Everybody followed him. But the Yerushalmi says that what happens when the Mashani of Talia, they met him on the way, they all left the Kohen Gadol. They left the Kohen Gadol and they followed him. That's Shani of Talia. What's the pshat in that? They knew what Torah was. They realized what Torah was. Could you imagine that the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, he did all the avodah in Beis Hamikdash. He was probably the choshest Jew in Klal Yisrael. And everybody followed him home. But when they said Shema V'Avtayim, they left him and followed Shema V'Avtayim. Linda was mamish and shamish in the same way. I don't understand how she did it, but she did it. I don't know what gave him the schus to have a wife like that, but he had a schus. Somehow he had a schus to have a wife like this. Mama, she took care of every single need that he had. And that's somehow why our house didn't complain. You wonder, a person that's not that matzav, he's in a wheelchair all day. It wasn't comfortable. No matter how much he did in the wheelchair, he had a knack. He did everything the right way. He built himself a house. He built himself a car. Whatever he did the right way. Yet it still wasn't the same as we walk at your own 2 feet. It's not the same. So complain once. Why did you do this to me? He never complained once. It's a bit schus. We're talking about all Rosh Hashanah. What do you deserve to get life for? We need life for. You need life not to complain. The person that had life and complains all day doesn't deserve life. The person that doesn't complain at all, no matter what his matzav is, that person deserves a chaim. He had tremendous nachas from his kids. He had tremendous nachas from his kids. Even with daughters-in-law, everything, he didn't have no problems with anybody. And he did everything up to Torah. He was singing shir recently for a brother. And he called me up to make sure that I came over to say a certain tefillah with him that only I could say with him. No matter what, how much he suffered, he was a cow ba'ava. That's the pshat. He's a cow, the bunch of which is ba'ava. It's now between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. The two Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurs, the two Aseres Yom Tshuva. One says Yom Tshuva before Yom Kippur, and one after Yom Kippur. The Shlach Kodesh says that there's a Aseres Yom Tshuva after Yom Kippur also. Between Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah Rabbah, it's also Aseres Yom Tshuva. What do you need the second Aseres Yom Tshuva for? If you didn't do it the first time, you're not going to do it the second time either. That you do it to get schar. The one who wants to give you schar, he wants to give you reward for doing tshuva. It's a palatine zach. I don't know where he learned as a young child, but he did everything the right way. Everything the right way. It's unbelievable. The Rebbeinu Shalom should see to it that his wife has nachas from her kids, and her kids have nachas from her. Because the kids should respect her. They'll take care of themselves. I'm not worried about that. But they have to take care of her. Nowadays, the kids don't take care of the parents anymore. I don't know why not. Keep it Aveim is the mitzvah in the Torah, one of the biggest mitzvahs in the Torah. The only one that the Torah gives a schar for. I don't see the kids giving respect to their parents. We had another person who was nifted by us in shul, and the value was all about how much respect that they gave their kids. I didn't see the respect they gave their kids. I didn't see it. But by Benny, he was medacted. He was made sure that eventually, when he knew he was going. No question, he knew he was going. And he made sure before he was nifted to tell every one of his kids to take care of their mother. He took care of his mother. He took care of his wife. Same thing. That's what they have to fulfill the tzavor. He didn't leave any money. He didn't leave any cover. Didn't leave him. But he left them one mitzvah to do. Kiyureim. That's what they have to do. That's what they have to do. By Emunah, they have to do it. And if they do that, the Rebbeinu will see to it that they have nachas from their children. And then they have nachas from their children, and the bezirket that managed needs to have atzlocha. Because now, if they have a hasora of how the mother treated her father, it's a course for that alone. To keep it aim becomes a keep it av. To keep it aim becomes a keep it av. And we should learn from them how you have to treat a mother. The whole family gave a lot of kavod to Benny. The whole family gave a lot of kavod. They deserve it. They deserve to be rewards for that. The Rebbeinu should see to it that Benny will go out for the kisei kavod, and should bring Mashiach, Mitzvah Hashem. We need him already. We need him already because we don't know who's going to be the next president, but we need him already. So Zambila Mota, Netzach, Mocha Shantim, Malkaponim.
We're here to give kavod achrein, to pay our last respects to Benny Zigdon. Benny was a multifaceted person. So much to learn from him. In reality, he was bigger than life. He conquered every challenge. He did so much for so many people. Benny and Linda, L'havdil ben Chaim L'chaim, were tremendous and are tremendous machnise orchim. They're bringing guests into their house. But they did one thing that a regular Machnas Orach doesn't even do. The Pasuk tells us that when Rachel realized she was having a hard time bearing children, so she suggested to Yaakov Avinu, "V'taymer Rachel, hinei amosi Bila, marry Bila, my maidservant, v'teileh al birkai, and she will bear children on my lap. V'ibona gam anochi mimena, and that will be considered as if I'm building children." What does it mean, on my lap? So Rashi says, the Targum says, "V'ona irbe." Irbe means I will develop them. I'll give them culture. Benny Zigdon brought in kids from the whole world. There were kids from Eretz Yisrael, from broken homes, that he brought them into his house together with Linda. They not only gave them to eat and to sleep, not only they clothed them, they developed them, they made them into mention. They took children from the street who didn't have parents and had difficult situations. They mamish made them. V'anochi irbe. Everybody knows Benny and Linda have 3 children, 3 boys, have many, many more. So many people that they developed and put on their feet, financially, emotionally, morally, in every way. This is from years ago. People don't realize it didn't go on just for 1 year. It went on for years and years. They took people and made them. And people came from Eretz Yisrael. Before there was a Bikur Cholim house. Where did they stay? Sick people. They stayed by Benny and Linda. They took people and helped them in every situation. But there's another nakuda with that alone. He did it without fanfare. Everything today is on the internet. Everybody knows every time you're doing a mitzvah, just put it on there, let everybody see. No. Benny was at Snei Aleches. He did it under the radar. People didn't know about it. They developed people that today, Baruch Hashem, they have children and they are still connected. And nobody knows about it. They were zeichet to such beautiful children. There's Yossi and Chevy, there's Aryeh and Fanny, and there's Donnie and Ketty. Such beautiful Enoklach, grandchildren. These children, they have 2 points about them that Benny also had. First of all, they're worried about Klal Yisrael. They're worried about everybody else. Yossi, in his way, Chevy takes care of girls that nobody even knows about. Ari and Fanny together take care of boys. There was Rosh Yeshiva from Baltimore that told me that Ari and Fanny saved Baltimore. Strong line. And Donnie and Ketty, in their quiet way, they're saving people, still a hate, they're supporting people and helping people and doing more to do for people. But there's another facet also. They're steiging. They're growing. Every one of them grows. They're constantly growing. Where does it come from? It came from Benny. But let's just say over one story that just happened 3 weeks ago. And then another source. 3 weeks ago on a Wednesday, Thursday, I don't remember which day it was, Benny found out that unfortunately, his illness had crept into other places. He was pretty devastated. But he didn't say much. Shabbos afternoon, 3 o'clock, I'm in bed. There's a knock on the door. This was before the Kotel came into its building. Who's at the door? Donnie. He wheeled Benny over. Benny wants to see the building right now. He wants to see it. Such a prognosis. There's only one thing in his mind. Avas Torah. He loved the learning. He loved the fact that he was going to go daven in the Sephardi minyan. That's all that was on his mind. Shabbos afternoon, I had to get dressed and go out and take him into the building. And he was there, he was marveling. He was so happy that Torah would have a haven and Torah would have a home. That's where the children get the Ahavas Torah from him. They had so many paths to take in life. And they decided they're going to go on the path of Torah. Every one of them. They all stayed by learning, all stayed by Harbatzas Torah in different ways. And that comes from Benny's devotion to Torah. And Linda is okay with it. She grew up in America. She didn't have the upbringing that Benny had. And still, she went for it. But there's another nakuda about Benny that it's probably the crux of everything. Chazal tell us that when Yishmael was in the Midbar and he was thirsty, dying from thirst, so Hashem sent down a malach to save him, bring him water and save him. And the malach said, why save him? His grandchildren are going to give tzaras to Klal Yisrael. They're going to torment Klal Yisrael in the future generations. Well, Hashem said, Basher Osham, but today he's behaving fine. Basher Osham, I judge him on the way he is today. So we see from here that Hashem judges a person the way he acts today. And the Meforshim ask, we find the opposite by Ben Sayer Moira, by the child who's rebelling against his parents. Right now he's basically behaving, but ultimately he's going to make terrible trouble in the streets. He's going to be a menace to society. So which one is it? So Torah tells him, kill him now. Now which one is it? Does Hashem judge by the acts of today or the acts of tomorrow, of the future? And the Torah says, what's the definition of a ben Saira Meira? Rashi says Saira means Sor min haderech, he went off the derech. Meira means Mamrim, he rebels. The Sifri says Saira means Sor min haderech, he went off the derech. Meira means Meira derech la'atzmai. He's his own Rebbe. He doesn't consult with rabbis. He doesn't listen to anybody. He does his own thing. He never seeks consultation with anybody. For such a person, there's no hope. Normally, Hashem judges the person by his acts of today, because there's hope. In Yishmael, we don't find there is his own Rebbe. He may have been a wild man, but he wasn't. But he respected Avraham Avinu. Ben Saira Meira is Meira derech la'atzmai. He's his own Rebbe. Benny always consulted. Benny always called. Benny always spoke to somebody to find out what's the Messiah, or what's the way, how do we do it? Rabbi Isai, if there's one lesson to be learned from Benny is get yourself a rabbi. Don't just pay a salary. Listen to him. Consult with him. Do with him. Nudge him. Bother him. And you'll be gliklach. And you'll be fortunate. Of course, the children follow in the same way. And that's why they have such beautiful families. But today, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, there's one more lesson to learn. And yet, in last week's Parsha, the Pasuk says, Ki korov elecha hadavar ma'od. It's referring to tshuva, according to some. It's very close to you. It's very easy to do tshuva. Beficha, it's in your mouth. Ubilvavcha, it's in your heart. La saisai. The Pasuk is telling us, some people have it believe, they have it in their heart. Some people have it in their mouths. And some people have it in both. They talk about it, and it's in their heart. Action is what's needed. La saisai. Do you do it? Benny implemented it. He was thrown to tshuva in the last while. Not only was it in his heart his whole life, not only was it in his mouth, but la saisai, he did it. Bitzua. That's what Benny was famous for. He got things done. In innovative ways, in new ways, he figured out how to do it. Be it in chesed, be it in tshuva, be it in whatever. He made sure to get it done. We learn from Benny these tremendous lessons. Chesed is to make people have emunas chachamim, talk to the rabbis, nudge them, consult. And when you have to do something, it's not just in your heart, it's not just in your mouth. Action is what's needed. For we learned this from Benny. It'll be a tremendous chus for Benny. He'll go up to Kisei HaKavod, and he'll ask for Linda. The Rebbeinu Shalom should give her schar, not just for the last period, for her whole life. Look what she's been doing. She's tremendous. And he'll ask for a reward for his children, his grandchildren. And we'll all be zeicha to the coming of Mashiach. Bila amavas lanetzach mocha Hashem Elokim dima miyakol pan.
Baruch Hashem, I was zocha to have Abba as a father. He had many wonderful characteristics. I can stand here all day listing and discussing them, but in order to avoid tirchut tzibura, Aryeh Dani and I agreed that we would each talk about the characteristics that were most meaningful to us. Like Rabbi Garfunkel mentioned, I always admired how, though Abba was in a wheelchair his entire adult life and in crutches his entire childhood, he never used this as an excuse or complained about it. From pictures of his youth that show him smiling ear to ear, standing with his crutches while his friends are jumping around, to stories I heard from my aunts and uncles about how he built a bicycle that he pedaled with his hands and gave rides to his nieces and nephews, Abba always found a way to be happy and cheerful. In his 20s, Abba was diagnosed with severe scoliosis, which required 25 hours of surgery. But even then, Abba turned it into a positive. Only Abba could use a 25-hour surgery and subsequent year-long rehab to meet the love of his life, Mami. From there, Abba went to start a family and build a successful business. Again, never once complaining that he is at a disadvantage because of his handicap. In fact, the only time I ever remember him mentioning it was to cut the lines at Disney World. It was such a non-issue for him and our family that I viewed it as completely normal. I remember one time when someone in the community was in a horrible car accident, left him paralyzed from the waist down. I commented to a friend that I can't imagine how the person's life is going to be now that he will be bound to a wheelchair for the rest of his life and never be able to walk again. My friend simply said, "Isn't that the situation your father's in?" That is when I realized that even though Abba was handicapped, he never carried himself in a way that would evoke pity or sympathy. Abba led his life to the fullest and never let his disability slow him down. The other characteristic I chose to discuss was Abba's love of people, especially family and friends. Even though Abba was never the most verbally expressive person, his actions showed you how much he cared. Even when he was very sick, whenever someone came to visit, his eyes would light up and he would have a huge smile. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who came to visit him, help him and my mom, and just be there. Baruch Hashem, that list is so long that I can't list everyone for fear I may miss someone. I know it meant the world to Abba to see how many people cared enough about him to take time out of their busy lives to visit him and spend time with him. Thank you to all of you. I truly believe that the friends who visited once were one of the factors that helped Abba live 6 months longer than the doctor's original prognosis. I feel the amount of visitors Abba had is a testament to the wonderful community, but also a testament to the impact Abba had on people. People were drawn to Abba because of his warm, fun personality. Abba would do anything for his friends, and really all Jews. I still think of all the nights Abba went back to the office late at night because someone had a sick relative they had to fly to, or someone had a levaya they needed to go get to. The financial side of me asked Abba once if it was really worth the time and aggravation to work at 11 or 12 at night, and he told me that he usually didn't make any money on these tickets. He did it because the people needed to get there, and he was the only one who could get them there. As much as Abba loved his friends, he loved his family even more. Nothing gave him more pleasure than seeing his children and grandchildren. He loved spending time with us, especially games and projects. Zevi reminded me that it was Saba who taught him to play chess and sheshbesh, and now Zevi's even better than me. Chevy commented to me how impressed she was that Abba was willing to spend 10 hours with me and the kids building a wooden playhouse, just so he can be with us. I can't count how many hours we spent building sukkahs together. He just enjoyed being with us, even if it meant being outside in the hot sun. Although somehow the fan I brought out always seemed to be pointing at him. As someone who also has difficulty expressing verbal emotion, I hope I can emulate Abba in letting my actions speak louder than my words to display my affection for friends and family. I remember from my youth and seeing now with my children that the care Abba takes in everything he does, for example, to prepare food for us. He would spend 10 minutes mixing the couscous with the children, adding salt and pepper, tasting and adjusting, just so it would be perfect when we eat it. It made him feel great to see us enjoying. He didn't have to say how much he loved us. It was evident from the simple actions and gestures he would do. I will add, so that Mommy doesn't get mad at him, that he did also tell us he loved us. But to me, his actions always spoke louder than his words. But nothing matched the love he felt for Mommy. Mommy was his world, and he would do anything for her. Just one small example of this was the past Friday night. It was the last meal he was able to sit at the table for. He must have known that this was his last meal, because in the middle of the meal, he said, "I provided Mommy with a beautiful house, Parnassa to live on, and everything she needs." This was his way of showing his love for her, expressing to her that he had done all he can to make sure she is comfortable and taken care of. He loved her very much. Abba, I just want to ask you for mechila for anything I've done to upset you. Please know that I will do everything in my power to honor you and your memory. I love you. Bila hamavas lanetzach u'mach Hashem dima me'al kol panim.
When I was a kid, I never really thought about it like Yossi said. It was simple. It was like obvious that life just was, and Abba was in a wheelchair, and nobody ever stopped to think about it for a second. A few years ago, I started hanging out with my own son, playing sports, riding bikes, going on hikes, whitewater rafting, and the question popped into my head. Did we lose out? We never rode bikes. Never went camping, never went on hikes. Did we lose out? I know that we absolutely didn't. Because as you heard, his handicap gave us so much more than his walking could have ever done. Everyone speaks about his strength and his optimism. I want to develop that with a little bit of a different twist. And to do so, I want to point out a few things that he endured in his life. As Yossi mentioned, well, first of all, we all know that he was born, and a few short months into his life, he developed polio and never walked, which means that his entire childhood, he sat inside, or he sat outside in a wheelchair. But when the kids were running around playing ball, he wasn't. When they went swimming, he actually did swim, but when they went hiking, he couldn't. Everything that little children do, he wasn't able to. He lost his father when he was 18. He lost his eldest brother that same year, and then he lost a sister to cancer a few years later. When he was 18 years old, when he was 21 or somewhere around that age, like Yossi said, he endured a 26-hour-long back surgery where he had terrible scoliosis, and they wanted to straighten out his spine. So they put him in a stretch bed that stretched his head from the rest of his body. For 6 weeks, he laid in this stretch bed in a hospital when he was in the prime of his life. When everyone else was out hanging out with their friends and everyone was out getting married, he was stuck in a bed 6 weeks, stretching out his neck. They then put him through a 26-hour-long surgery where they fused a metal rod to his spine in an effort to keep it straight. And then, for a full year, he laid in a body cast. A full year, which happens to be when he met Mom. So there was definitely a good outcome to that. After they got married, for 3 long years, they tried to have children with no success. They ended up moving back to America, where Baruch Hashem, they had me and Yossi. Then they lost a child at birth. Then Baruch Hashem, they had Dani. One trip in New York, they were driving, and the construction people were doing construction, and they forgot to put up cones or whatever they did wrong. But Mom and Abba didn't see the giant hole in the middle of the street, and they drove into the hole, and the rod that Abba spent 1.5 years of his life creating snapped in half. And scoliosis went right back. I remember we went to a baseball game, probably with Camp Step, and Abba always wanted to be there for us. He didn't want us to lose out because he was handicapped, so he came to the game. And I remember we were sitting in the stands, and one of the other fathers came over and said to me and Yossi, "You need to come with us." We went to some back room, and Abba's laying there in a stretcher. This is back in the days when the Cleveland Stadium didn't exactly have proper handicapped restrooms. And he tried to use the restroom, and he slipped and broke his hip. And he laid up in a bed for 3 to 6 months. I don't even know if anyone knows this, but when the Intifada hit, and then 9/11, Abba and Mom declared bankruptcy. They lost their house, and through some other efforts, thanks to some wonderful people, they were able to buy it back from foreclosure in my name. And after all this, he gets diagnosed with prostate cancer. Now, most people know prostate cancer is an easy one. It's a little bit of radiation or a little bit of you remove the prostate, it's no big deal. Everyone survives prostate cancer, most. But he fell into that 5% that suffered, and they decided, let's remove the prostate. Once you remove the prostate, 3% chance that the cancer comes back. It's mamash. That's what the doctor said. And again, he fell into that 3%, and the cancer came back. And then they said, okay, let's radiate. With radiation, there's no shiloh. It's for sure going to help. And he fell into that 2 to 3% again. Let's do chemo. It's just prostate cancer. It's not supposed to go anywhere else. But his prostate cancer metastasized to his entire body. It's not supposed to go to the brain. Prostate cancer is prostate cancer. But his prostate cancer metastasized to the brain. And I was here a week ago when he sat and they drilled a metal cage to his head. And he went through radiation. And all for what? Because he was the strongest man we ever knew. Because there's nothing in the world that was more important to him than his wife and his children. And he wanted to be here for them, and he fought tooth and nail when he knew that he and I had a conversation, I think Thanksgiving. And he said, nothing's going to help, I'm telling you. But I'm fighting for mommy. But strength is one thing. His wasn't just strength. His was unshakable emunah. When you asked him, how are you? It was always Baruch Hashem. When you asked him, how are things going? And he told you what happened, and he told you that he's going through radiation, he said, but Hashem Yazor. Unshakable emunah. The Rebbeinu Shalom was on his tongue all the time. Hashem will make it better. Hashem will send the pills. Hashem's going to fix it. When he went bankrupt, Hashem's going to fix it. God was on his tongue all day long. He never, ever felt like he was alone. He always felt like everything was dealt to him from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that emunah is what we got from him. And when I think back to my childhood and not going swimming and not going bike riding and not going hiking, I know that I got from him and we got from him what we could have never had from him having feet. We got unshakable faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We got emunah like no other. And when the prostate cancer came back and came back and came back and it metastasized, every single time it was God's going to help, God's going to help. My mother told me when a week ago, they were supposed to do these immunotherapy treatment. These pills were supposed to come. And my mother broke down in tears. She broke down. And he said, stop. Hashem's going to send the pills and they're going to help. Strength, optimism are great attributes, but for him they came from the Rebbeinu Shalom. His strength was God. His optimism was God. His life was God. And thus he has, Baruch Hashem, a beautiful family who all serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Who else can we think of that literally moments, within 10 minutes of his P'tira, had 3 of the biggest Rabbanim in the city standing at his side? I looked around the room. It was literally within 5 to 10 minutes of his death. There were 3 Rabbanim standing there beside us. It says in Pirkei Avos, "Yeh beischa beis vad lechachamim," that your house should be comfortable and open to the chachamim, to the Rabbanim. How many Rabbanim came into our house? How many Rabbanim came for lunch meals and just to sit and have a cup of coffee with him? Everybody knew Abba's bedroom was the living room. Rabbi Baron would walk in and sit with him in his bedroom while he had his blanket up. Rabbi Garfunkel, Rabbi Katz, the Rabbanim would come in and sit with him and just kibitz. Their house was always open, was always comfortable. Like Rabbi Katz said, Bikur Cholim and NCSY kids and kids from Brazil and Israel. He taught us the midos of Avram Avinu. He taught us chesed, and he taught us emunah. Every single text that came in from Eretz Yisrael, and every message that we got from family, and from anyone that knew him, was always about his optimism and his strength and the smiles. All the cousins and everyone in Eretz Yisrael said the same thing, that his living changed our lives. His day-to-day changed our lives. His day-to-day gave us strength. His jokes and his smile, everything about him changed our lives. And Abba, even in your last days, you fought, you held on. My brothers called me at Motzei Rosh Hashanah and said, you need to come in. And I was debating whether I should drive in Mamish Motzei Rosh Hashanah, but I was exhausted from the Yom Tov and I was afraid it was dangerous. And I went to sleep that night and I said, Rebbeinu Shalom, make sure I see him. You fought until I got there. I arrived at 10:30. He wanted me to put on his tefillin. I put his tefillin on, and you could see him. He was fighting. His whole body was shaking to stay around. His eyes were fluttering to the back of his head, and he was forcing his eyes open. And when I came in, he took my hand and he said, Aryeh. He actually said, Aryeh. And you fought and fought and fought, mamish, until your last breath, until there was simply no air left to breathe. I work with teenagers in Baltimore, kids that have been abused, kids that have had difficult lives. And I use his life as a source of growth and strength for each and every one of them, and they all know it. I got hundreds of text messages from the boys saying how they looked at him as a grandfather. Some of them who've never met him, but they've heard this story. They heard his life, and they heard his strength, and they heard his perseverance, and you're talking about kids that have suffered miserable traumas. And they all say, if he could do it, we could do it. That's my nechama, and that's his schos. That his relentless drive and emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're going to learn in a few weeks. We're going to learn Parshas Vizos HaBracha, where it says, "Ul Binyamin Omar, Yedid Hashem Yishkon V'atach." A Yedid is a friend. A Yedid is a dedicated person. A Yedid is yad b'yad, hand in hand. Yad yad is Yedid. Yedid Hashem Yishkon V'atach, that the friend of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the friend of God, will always dwell in security and together with him. That is Abba. Abba, you are Yedid. To everyone that knew you. And especially to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You left the world the day after Rosh Hashanah. You told HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are my king, I am your Eved, and now I can go. I want to ask Mechila, I was told to ask Mechila on behalf of Mommy as well. But I think you know she doesn't need it. Mommy gave you everything. She took care of you. From the minute you were married till the last breath you took, she held you, she kissed you, she made you tea, coffee, made sure you were comfortable. She sat by your bedside and didn't move for 12 months. She wouldn't leave you alone, not for 1 minute. If you ever had to leave the room, she made sure somebody else sat there beside you. But I do want to ask Mechila on my behalf, and for Fanny, and for our children, if we ever pained you. If we ever hurt you in any way. If we ever weren't there for you. Bila amovas lanetzach u'machash Hashem Elokim dima me'al kol panu.
I have to start off by saying that I learned about as much as you did about the tzaros that befell my parents. Call me naive, but I was sheltered. My parents never let me know what happened to them, much like most people, his own children. He didn't want to pain me with the pains that he had. Every story that I've heard about every one of those situations were funny stories. When Abba was sitting in that hospital bed for a year, this is what I know about that. The great things that he made, the artwork that hangs on our wall that he spun that he knitted. I don't know if I should say it, but all the nurses that used to sit around him. But my mom won. She took it. How Frank Sinatra came and sat with him. This is all I know about it. I don't know what they were talking about. My father played soccer with me. I didn't call hands on him when he used his crutches. I can honestly say I learned about as much as you did today, about his sorrows. My cousin Judy, we are so grateful to you and to Tom for letting her go. Whenever we needed her, we called her and she came. She asked me to read this poem. It was a person like Abba, I believe, that the poet had in mind when he composed this moving poem, which he called The Measure of Man. Not how did he die, but how did he live? Not what did he gain, but what did he give? These are the units to measure the worth of a man as a man, regardless of birth. Not what was his station, but had he a heart, and how did he play his God-given part? Was he ever ready with a word of good cheer, to bring back a smile, to banish a tear? Not what was his shrine, nor what was his creed, but had he befriended those really in need? Not what did the sketch in the newspaper say, but how many were sorry when he passed away? May we, his family, friends, and admirers find comfort from these reassuring words. If we continue to love the one we lose, we never lose one we love. Thank you, Judy. The thank yous are too numerous to count. Baruch Hashem, we are so lucky to have such an amazing community who's there for us. You have no idea how many countless people has told me, oh, it was so nice, I went to visit your father yesterday. I enjoyed seeing him so much. And therefore, for fear, because I didn't even know everybody who stopped by, for fear of missing anybody, I cannot thank each one individually. But I will publicly thank my mother, even though everybody's already done it. To see how committed she was. She felt guilty to leave his side for even a second. And it wasn't just in the last 12 months, but it's been their entire life together. I have to thank my wife. Where I fell short as a son, she filled in with visits. She would make him laugh with text messages and phone calls. She would have him every Shabbos. We were so lucky to be able to spend that time together, to have those Shabbosim together. I just have to take the opportunity to tell you, when they say that visiting the sick takes away a 60th of death, takes away the pain, you have no idea what a different person he was when people would come and visit than from the minute they left. It really gives a person the energy to sit up and be normal again, to be alive, versus to think about the pain and the suffering. You have no idea how meaningful it is. I know when I've gone to visit people and I don't do it nearly enough, I see them, I say, what? They're not that sick. And I leave afterwards, and I think, oh, they weren't that sick. You have no idea. I have such a tremendous fear of my father. And it's not the fear of yesteryear. that when generations used to say everybody was afraid of their father. Oh, if you didn't do something, your father would take out a stick, say leather or metal, which side of the belt. My father instilled in me a fear because of love, a fear me'ava. I don't know how he did it. I have no idea. But I love him so much that I'm afraid to upset him. And I just hope that my children, I can do the same for my children. And I ask you, Abba, please, be a melet yasher that I should raise my children like you raised us, to understand what it is, yira me'ava, fear from love. I only know how to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu because of you. On Thursday, I had a long conversation with my Rav. The new iPhone 7 came out, and my phone was about ready to go. So I spoke to my Rav and I said, should I get a basic phone or should I get a smartphone? And he told me to get a basic phone. The next day my phone stopped working. Just stopped. I didn't have a chance to go out and get a new phone yet. Monday morning, I was looking for a shir to listen to on my way to work. And I found a shir, and I remembered that Rabbi Fran had just, a shir by Rabbi Fran had just came out. And so I turned on that shir. And Rabbi Fran spoke about how the problem with smartphones today. And I only felt it was bashert that I should speak about that tonight. Smartphones have taken over this world. They've taken over our minds, they've taken over our bodies. You ever feel that twitch in your leg when you think your phone's ringing? Turns out it's just a twitch. Do you ever, how often do you look around a room and notice that everybody's looking at their phone? They've really made us not be present anymore. So Rabbi Fran told a story of a father who told his son, oh my gosh, they were on their way to his ball game, and he said, oh my gosh, I forgot my phone. And the son said, maybe finally you'll watch my game. This was not my father. I remember my Rebbe one time gave me a new CD. And on that CD, it had this song. Talk to me. Tati, talk to me. Tati, talk to me. And so I played it for my father. And I said, Abba, talk to me. But you know what? It was a joke. It was a joke because he always talked to me. He was always there for me. And you can ask my chavrusa. I had to cancel my chavrusa every night because we have a family dinner tonight. We're sitting around the dinner table as a family. And that's what we did. Father-son learning. We would learn a little bit. We would sit at the table and we would joke around. We'd always be there, me and him. He played. We played. We took a picture in his bed. We had professional pictures taken. We had the whole family sit on his bed because that is how we remember Abba. Sitting on his bed, hanging out together, playing chess, playing backgammon, sheshbesh. We traveled. He took me everywhere. I've been to all corners of the world with him. He spent time with me. He spent a lot of time with me. Every son would be so lucky to have a father who spends as much time with him and is with him as he is. I took so much pride in walking with him whenever I was with him. It just gave me pride for people to see us together. Babysits my grandchildren? No problem. Put them up on my bed. They all loved going and giving him a kiss in bed. And that is why, bizchuto, after Shiva, I'm going to a basic phone. And I ask anybody who can, and I know it's not easy, to switch to a basic phone, bizchuto, so that we can all be present. We can all be there with our children, with anybody else who's in the room. Abba, I ask you, Mechila, I wish I could have been mechabed you the right way. I tried. But not hard enough. So please, be mindful of me. Please be a milat yosher for us and for our family, all of us, and for Mommy. Bila hamavas lanetzach u'macha Hashem tzoma me'al kol panim.
Hail, Malei Rachamim, Shoichein B'Hameroimim, Hametzei Menucha Nechoino, Ale Kanefei HaShechina B'Mahalois Kedoshim Utehoirim Kehezoyar Orokia Mazirim Es Nishmas Ben Yomin Ben Yosef Shalach le'olamai Ba'avor שאנחנו מתפללים ביד יזכורס נשמתוי בגן עדן, בגן עדן תהיה ומנוחסוי. לכן בעל רחמים יסתירהו בסייסר כנביו לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים אס נשמוסוי אדוני נחלוסוי וינוח בשלום על משכבוי ונאמר אמן.
The Kfura will be at Zion Memorial Park immediately following. Shiva will be held at the Zigdon home, 2654 Brentwood Road, during the entire week of Shiva. Shacharis will be at Slichas beginning at 5:55, and Mincha Marav will be at 6:45. In lieu of gifts, tzedakah is asked to be given to Bikur Chaylim of Cleveland.